Donald Trump is now saying he has seen evidence suggesting the coronavirus emerged from a Wuhan lab and compares the World Health Organization to a PR agency. And another story from Fox News shows Intel boss confirms investigation into whether coronavirus outbreak the result of an accident at Wuhan lab. We have numerous stories, suggestions, and reports showing it may be the case. I say may be, not definitively, but enough to warrant an investigation, enough that intelligence agents and the president are looking at evidence and investigation is underway. Yet for some reason, the media wants to act like only conservatives are talking about this. The Washington Post says, fact check, not likely. Why should I trust the Washington Post and their experts over the U.S. intelligence agencies? I don't trust the fake news, nor do I trust the government. So you know what? It really is a difficult position, but I'll tell you this. When the media comes out and says anything that Trump does is wrong or they counter it, I'm not going to trust them. And when we have even people in China releasing papers, which were eventually redacted, saying it likely came from this lab, I'm going to lead towards where the chips are falling, not trusting the fake news that hates the president. But let's see what Donald Trump has to say about this. The story from Fox News. President Trump said Thursday he has seen evidence suggesting that the coronavirus originated from a laboratory in China, while continuing his criticism of the World Health Organization's ties to Beijing, comparing the group to a public relations agency. Trump was speaking to reporters about protecting America's seniors when Fox News and others asked if he knew of anything that gave him confidence that the outbreak originated in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Yes, I have, he said, without further explanation. He added, quote, and I think that the World Health Organization should be ashamed of themselves because they're like the public relations agency for China. He earlier speculated about whether China knew about the virus sooner than it has led on and withheld information about the outbreak. Quote, so far, I think China is trying to be somewhat transparent with us. But we're going to find out, Trump said. It's a terrible thing that happened. Whether they made a mistake or whether it started off as a mistake and then they made another one, or did somebody do something on purpose? Intelligence officials confirmed Thursday that an investigation has been ongoing into whether the pandemic was the result of an accident at the Wuhan lab, a contradiction from the broad consensus that it originated at a wet market in the city. Now, here's the interesting thing I've read about this. One of the reasons they think this originated at a wet market or naturally is because it's wild and crazy. Some doctors have said this virus has no pattern of what it does or why it does what it does. It simply looks like it's a bunch of random things. But the idea about the Wuhan virus is not that it was manufactured intentionally as some kind of powerful bioweapon. It's that China was experimenting in an effort to race against U.S. developments in biotechnology. And so, yeah, a mishmash of viruses. That's the argument. I'm not saying it did originate, but I'll tell you this. I guarantee you that YouTube is going to derank and demonetize this video simply for me talking about what the news is talking about. Why? Well, the mainstream media is allowed to talk about it. I'm not, even though I assure you on my channel, you're probably getting a whole bunch of which direction should I be looking in. All of the recommendations, Fox News. Here you go. Here's me reading Fox News. Oh, I guess I'm not allowed to do it. Unless they pay me? Pfft, whatever. Quote, the entire intelligence community has been consistently providing critical support to U.S. policymakers and those responding to the COVID-19 virus, which originated in China. The intelligence community also concurs with the wide scientific consensus that the COVID-19 virus was not man-made or genetically modified. A statement from the Office of Acting Director of National Intelligence, Richard Grenell. As we do in all cases, the community's experts respond by surging resources and producing critical intelligence on issues vital to the U.S. national security. The IC will continue to rigorously examine emerging information and intelligence to determine whether the outbreak began through contact with infected animals or if it was the result of an accident at a laboratory in Wuhan. U.S. officials have ruled out the possibility the virus was created by China to be used as a bioweapon. Some said the pathogen may have escaped from the lab amid China's efforts to identify and combat the virus either with the same or greater capabilities than the U.S. In a show of defiance, China has rebuffed U.S. request that it allow inspectors access to the lab. And so there you go. Now, there's reporting that Dr. Fauci gave a grant to this Wuhan Institute. So some people are concerned now that they're kind of pushing back on us. On Thursday, Trump said, the world is suffering greatly while speaking of China's response. Quote, this is something that could have been contained at the original location, and I think it could have been contained relatively easily, Trump said. They were either unable to or they chose not to. And the Associated, I'm going to add this myself, the Associated Press reported that China knew on the 14th of human-to-human transmission, and they withheld this information resulting in the serious crisis you see now. I wonder if anyone's going to blame Donald Trump for this come November. I'm sure some people are. If you go on Reddit, the whole thing is nothing but left-wing propaganda, and it's really annoying. I don't care if you hate the president, man, and I say it in almost every single videos. I care that you tell the truth. And the number one post on Reddit earlier today was someone saying, if you would have told me November 2016 that Donald Trump's presidency would end, or his first term would end with the country dying in a massive economic collapse, I would have believed you. As if it's his fault. As if Donald Trump snapped his finger and made the virus. As if any of us knew how bad it was going to be. As if we could have controlled what China was doing when they were lying to us. After initially praising China's response, Trump shifted to blaming Beijing, a tactic to divert scrutiny over his own administration's handling of the crisis, according to some Democrats. Yet I call shenanigans on that, and I'll break that down. The U.S. response has been plagued with a shortage of test kits and sometimes contradictory statements between Trump and members of his coronavirus task force. Trump is not perfect. He's made a lot of mistakes. But the Democrats trying to act like Trump should have known better or that he should not have been diplomatic is really annoying. You see, look, when you're in a leadership position, diplomacy is very important. Trump can't just come out on TV and start screaming that he hates China, even though he does it a lot. He needs to make sure that there's some, he has to placate them to a certain degree. Because of this, the media and the Democrats exploit the things Trump says. Now, Trump could have been much harder on China. I've said this in the past. He could have done more in the beginning. I've said this too. Tucker Carlson apparently had to fly down to Florida and talk to the president and tell him, take this seriously. But that doesn't mean that the Democrats did better. It doesn't mean that their criticism is valid. In fact, I say the Democrats' criticism is not valid because they were doing less than what Trump was doing. They were just trying to impeach the guy. So in the worst case scenario for the Democrats, you can argue that they actually slowed Trump down because of their obsession with not liking the orange man. Here's a quote. Trump is desperate to distract voters from his record of rolling over for China, the Democratic National Committee told Fox News in a statement. He refused to call out China on its coronavirus response, and Americans are suffering the consequences. In regards to Beijing, the Chinese Communist Party has had a history of covering up outbreaks and anything shining a negative light on China. However, health experts previously expressed skepticism that the virus was linked to the Wuhan lab. Now, listen, far be it from me to tell you, where this virus actually came from. I am not the expert. I can criticize the press and how YouTube has handled the whole thing. Is it possible this was natural development, this virus naturally emerged? Of course it is. It happens all the time. And it seems to be the most likely scenario. Is it possible that China was experimenting and things got out of hand? It is possible as well, especially considering a university in China released that paper. Now, they did eventually retract that. But we've seen the question asked. And what I find truly funny about all of this, the Washington Post, before Trump brought up any of this, asked, should we be looking into the Wuhan Biolab in an op-ed? And quoted somebody from Rutgers, a professor, who said it's very possible. Now, when Donald Trump comes out and says he's seen evidence, and we're seeing reporting from Fox News, this is the case, what does the Washington Post do? According to our fact check, it is very unlikely it came from the lab. You see, as soon as Trump says it, it must be wrong. When Trump came out for the travel ban on January 31st, they said, oh, harumph! Donald Trump and his travel ban, he's a xenophobe. On March 12th, Donald Trump enacted a travel ban from Europe. And what did they say? Donald Trump, his travel bans don't work. Joe Biden called him out. April 3rd, they changed their tune. And now they're arguing Trump's travel ban isn't going far enough. They're actually arguing, I think this was Pelosi, that he should have barred Americans from returning back to this country. There is nothing the man can do. And as soon as he says this, they immediately call it a right-wing conspiracy. BuzzFeed News ran a whole article saying a conspiracy theory popular on the right. And I challenged the guy who wrote this. I'm like, you realize CNN has reported this. CNN reported there was a former Clinton staffer speaking on CNN saying Occam's razor suggests, meaning the simple solution, the most likely, is that this came from the lab. That was a former Clinton National Security Council staffer. That wasn't good enough for BuzzFeed. That's not good enough for these outlets because they have to always oppose the president. At least there are some people who have principles who are willing to call out the possibilities. We don't know. We may not ever know. But Tom Cotton was talking about this in January. The Republicans were talking about this. And dare I say, the incestuous relationship between the media and Democrats is destroying their party. Because the media only cares about traffic, and because the Democrats use them to prop up their false positions and lies, they're pushing policies that no one wants or cares about, and they're just saying the opposite of what any Republican actually says. So when you get someone like me, who's a more moderate, right, and I say, hey, this seems like it's possible, they assume, well, that must be a Trump thing. That must be a conservative thing. No, it's a regular person thing. Regular people are asking about this. But in your obsession to just simply be opposed to whatever it is Donald Trump is because you're terrified of agreeing with the man, you have now made yourselves look like absolute buffoons. Donald Trump says he's seen evidence. It's not definitive, but I'll tell you what. Following this, you're going to see a ton of outlets saying, oh, Donald Trump is pushing a conspiracy theory. Here's look at Trump says he's seen evidence, right? Here's how the Financial Times put it. Trump says he's confident COVID-19 came from Wuhan lab. No, he did not. Financial Times, what are you doing? I actually thought you were pretty good up until this. This is fake news. He was asked if he has seen anything that gives him confidence, and he said yes. That doesn't mean he is confident. It doesn't mean he thinks it actually came from there. It means you're fake news, and they're trying to discredit the story before it even gets out. We'll see how this plays out. Maybe we'll never know, but I'll leave it there. I will see you all tomorrow at 10 a.m. I will be home, finally. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you all next time.